965th regular meeting of the Livonia City Council. Please join us in the offering of the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Scott Barr. Please rise. Thank you, Mr. Barr. Tonight's meeting will be a voting meeting, and the minutes of this meeting will be approved at the next regular meeting, scheduled to be on Monday, April 10th of 2023. Ms. Nash, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Barr.
Here.
Councilmember Donovic.
Here.
Councilmember Morgan.
Here.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Here.
President Jolly.
Present. We have 5 members here currently. Ms. Toy is unable to be here tonight, and Mr. McCullough says he will be joining us shortly. He has been held up with some other obligations, just for a little bit, I think. At this time, I would entertain a motion in regards to the meeting minutes of the regular meeting of March 13 of 2023.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion by Donovic, support by McIntyre. Are there any additions or comments from the council? I see none. Any additions or comments to the minutes from the audience? I see none. Ms. Nash, please take the vote on that.
Councilmember Barr.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan.
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Aye.
President Jolly.
Aye. The minutes are approved. At this time, the council has set aside 30 minutes for audience communication on any item that is not on the agenda this evening. Is there anybody who would like to address the council? If you'd like to address the council, please make your way to the podium. I'll start by asking you to identify yourself and state your address as well. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Carrie Budzinski, 9345 California Street. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Livonia Library Commission, and we'd like to recognize Toni Laporte for her years of service as the director of the library and library staff. She's retiring in early April, and we'd just like to publicly recognize her service and note some of her accomplishments in the most recent years. During the COVID pandemic, Livonia's libraries were among the first in the region to reopen and led the way in innovative services, including curbside services, outdoor programming, and even offering program and services directly to resident stores. Toni has done an outstanding job protecting our city assets. Both the Civic Center and Sandburg will be getting new roofs. HVAC systems will be upgraded, and the ducts were cleaned for the first time in 35 years at the Civic Center. All of these expenses were handled responsibly through the city's library millage budget and not the general funds. So we'd like to thank Toni for her service and wish her well in her next endeavors.
Thank you very much.
My name is Margaret Earl. I live at 31545 Pembroke Street in Livonia. And I put a packet of information on each council member's table area. And it's regarding the teen program for the Kirksey Recreation Center. And I know there was a lot of discussion about a value, if not a charge, is it valued? Also, the number of people who are employed right now, that they could use more employees. And so I put together a little plan, and this is just a suggestion that maybe we could implement, and I'm sure the Director of Parks could complete more information. But I call it the Work, Play, Learn, Earn program. And it would allow the people, the teens between 14 and 17, to work as unpaid volunteers. They would assist in the playground program, and I've got some information of what they might do there. The idea of play is that they would then receive a pass to use the equipment and the Kirksey Rec Center. The learn is that they would also be learning job skills as well as specific skills that are used at the recreation center. And earn, they would be given a complimentary pass to use at the Kirksey Center during the duration of the program. Plus, they would earn the skills that might get them intern jobs, because at 16, they can actually apply to be paid interns. So I just wanted to leave that with you guys, and maybe you can add some thoughts to it, and we can work it up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I should also note that you have 3 minutes when you're addressing the council. So, good evening. Please tell me your name and address.
Hi, my name's Gerald Hool. I live at 35471 Oakdale Street with my wife Beth in the Golf View Meadows sub on the north side of Idlewild Golf Course. We've been there for 22 years. We didn't plan on being here tonight, but after the past week, we need to voice some concerns about the activity on the golf course. Last Tuesday, construction crews began digging up the area next to our fence. Beth had asked the workers what they were doing. She was told they were running water and sewer lines for a public bathroom on the course. This was shocking to us. We had no notice of this work happening. After numerous phone calls, we were told that utilities were being put in to support a public bathroom, an 11 by 17-foot structure up to 12 feet high, only 39 feet from our fence line. A public bathroom would hurt all property values in our sub. Many residents have made large investments to our 55-year-old homes. We do not want those property values destroyed. We know that golf course communities have higher values than other properties. We have many questions with no real answers. Would this be another spot for local teens to gather, like other areas around the course? Would this bathroom attract more vandalism and graffiti? Would this add to the heavy flooding conditions already in that location? Was this a part of the pumping station project scope? Was a site plan made public for this facility? Was the project over $20,000, and was it approved by the City Council? City engineering and plan review departments are not aware of any permits for this project. The lack of information and notice to residents is disturbing. I know of no golf courses that have public bathrooms around the perimeter. They are in a central spot. We are not opposed to a public bathroom, just not in that location, impacting property values. There's enough land available to change the locations. Property owners are upset. We did not buy our house next to a public bathroom. I'm sure that none of you would want a public bathroom next to your home. We've been told that this plan is not moving forward. We would like to hear from the council that this project will not happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, good evening. Your name and address, please.
Hello, Tom Karapatakis, excuse me. Tom Karapatakis, I live at 16115 Fairway, and I also live behind the golf course. My wife and I have lived there for nearly 30 years, and we're also very concerned about the large public bathroom that will be built only 39 feet away from the fence line of the residential neighborhood. At this point, we're still very curious as to the neighbors as to how this project got along this far. When we're asked about the specifics of the building process, the response is it's canceled for now, and that it does seem like it could restart in the future. The neighbors would like confirmation that any public bathroom would not be built backing up to residential neighborhoods. We feel that there is much better options out there. I guess I am requesting two things. First, I would like clarification on how the public bathroom project was permitted and approved. I would like to know how I can get access to the records of the permits, the site plans, showing proper setbacks, landscaping plans, and who signed off on it. Since the public bathroom project has already begun, all this information should be readily accessible. There's a paragraph in the Livonia City Code, section 7.2. It's very legalese and wordy, but to paraphrase it, it basically says that that there are waivers given to Planning Commission and City Council, and they have the right to make changes on these waivers of land use. But at the end, it does say, and provided further, that such building, structure, or use is designed, erected, and landscaped to conform harmoniously with the general architecture and plan for such district. In fact, the word harmonious is used a total of 10 times in the zoning ordinance. It's obvious that the mayor, city council, and the city planning department felt that that adjective was very important, that they used it 10 times to discussing the building project process. So my second item that I'd like to request, is just for future record, I would like to ask each of the council members here today, do you feel that a large public bathroom measuring 17 by 11 by 12 feet high and only 39 feet away from the fence line of a residential area on a golf course is harmonious to the area? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. Your name and address, please.
My name is Chris Flanagan, and I live at 35427 Oakdale, obviously on the golf course as well. We have lived in our house for 21 years. Behind our house, when we bought our house 21 years ago, there was water back there. There was like a pond, and there was trees. We had complete privacy in our backyard. We have a pool. I have 4 children. Several years ago, and honestly, my children were young, so I don't remember what year it was because it was kind of a busy time, the golf course came and did some re-planning of the golf course because they were trying to eliminate a water issue that was on the golf course. Well, they may have taken care of the water issue on the golf course, but my backyard, my next door neighbor's backyard, the Hools' backyard, they all flood. So their problem cost me a couple $1,000s. We had to bring in dirt. We had to plant trees to get privacy. The foreman of that project came and knocked on my door, not a city person, somebody on the project, came and explained to me what was happening because the city did not. And he said he's going to replace the trees. I will not lose any privacy. They planted 3 trees. They all died. They came back and replanted an evergreen, and I used a hose from my house to keep that tree alive. I was accused by the golf course people of draining my pool onto the golf course. I have not in 21 years ever drained my pool onto the golf course. It is illegal. I have our pool professionally opened and closed. We don't do that. The tree's alive because I took care of it. The trees were taken down. The flooding began. I have had golf balls through my dining room window. I have had to replace screens. Before, 5 golf balls in the course of the summer. These are not PGA players, I get it, they're not great golfers. However, I now have 5 golf balls on a day. When we have an issue with a golfer, and I call and say, golf ball just went through my dining room window, the people of the golf course give me the person's make and model of their car and their driver's license, or their license plate, and tell me it's my job, I have to go after the people. I'm a good neighbor. I don't mow my lawn at 7 in the morning. The golf course can't say the same thing. 6:45 in the morning, the lawnmowers go up and the noise begins. Not good neighbors. This whole bathroom thing, not good neighbors. My neighbors across the street wanted a new fence. They had to get approved. Golf course didn't get approved. They didn't even have the courtesy to tell us. That says something about what is happening in the city of Livonia, and that's really sad because I've raised my children here. I'm an employee of Livonia Public Schools, and I just don't feel like we are being treated in our neighborhood on Oakdale. We have not been treated very kindly. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening. Your name and address, please.
My name is Elizabeth Hool, and I live at 35471 Oakdale Street. I'm the wife of Gerald, who just spoke. We've lived at this address for 22 years this year, and have thoroughly enjoyed living there. We've raised 5 kids on the property. We've had 2 dogs. We've absolutely loved it. I love being around the golfers. We redid our whole house. We've spent tens of thousands of dollars on the yard. We put in beautiful pavers. We get people coming to the fence all the time on the golf course to tell us how beautiful it is. So imagine how I felt when I got a phone call when I was pulling out of getting a cup of coffee the other day, and they told us that we were, to get home because they were digging this hole in the yard. So I got home and I saw the excavator there. We all thought that the hosing there was going to be to alleviate the problem of the flooding that we've had all these years on the golf course, where my husband has actually had to go out and put a electric pump on the golf course and he hooks it up to the hose and drains it out to the street. That's how bad it gets. And so he's done that. We haven't complained about it. But, we've done what we had to do to get by with it. But when I found out from the worker out there that they were putting a comfort station, which I call a bathroom that I know is not going to be maintained because we can't get them out there to cut the weeds down from the fence line. It was truly upsetting after we just finished all of our projects last year. So I just want to read this ordinance to you first of all. First, let me just start, because I didn't plan on saying that at the beginning, but Chapter 8.32 of the Livonia Code of Ordinances protects Livonia residents from noise nuisances. The building of this public restroom so close to residential properties, which is 39 feet away from our fence, will force Livonia residents to hear the following while trying to enjoy their backyards: toilets flushing, water running, vocalizations from golfers waiting in line to use the facility, including talking, yelling, joking, swearing, pot smoking, and so forth. And I would like to read the purpose of Chapter 8.32 as defined within the Code of Ordinances. It says, "This chapter is designed to provide comprehensive regulations to control noise levels so as to preserve, protect, and promote the public health, safety, and welfare, and the peace, comfort, and quiet of the inhabitants of the city, prevent injury to humans, animals,
ma'am.
and property."
I have to cut you off. That's your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, so it's the ordinance of Livonia.
You have 3 minutes, and you've reached it. Thank you very much. We have to keep to the rules. Okay, is there any? Okay, are you all set? Okay, good evening. Tell me your name and address, please.
Good evening. I'm Debbie Karapatakis. I live at 16115 Fairway Street. And I'm just going to pick up where my neighbor left off. Now I would like to ask all of you here, while trying to enjoy your backyard with your family and friends, would you want to hear toilets flushing? While playing with your small grandchildren, would you like to hear a line of golfers joking inappropriately and using profanity? Livonia has always been a family-friendly city. It was a wonderful city for me to raise my children, and it has protections in place to guard residents' peace, comfort, and quiet. This public restroom will create a noise nuisance for many residents, and I would like to call on the city to protect us against this unplanned, unpermitted noise nuisance creating structure. So I want to thank you all for listening to our concerns tonight. Clearly, we have a lot of them, and we have a lot of questions. And I'm not sure what the process is, but I would like to request that we could have a committee of the whole, bring this to the committee of the whole, because there's a number of unanswered questions. So we've asked about permits. We've heard mixed answers from the head of the Parks and Rec, where it sounds like the reason that this public restroom was initiated was because there was money left over after putting in the sump pump. And we're very confused as to why Livonia would allow a public restroom 39 feet from my neighbor's house, and rather than doing it in the center of the golf course. And actually what the head of the Parks and Rec told my husband today was that it was cheaper to do it at the outside edge of the perimeter. I'm really not much of a golfer, and anytime I did golf, if there was a water, pond, I was sure to hit my ball in there. But give me a 12-foot wall, and I will be sure to hit that, and you can just imagine how that might ricochet. So all kinds of concerns that we have. We do appreciate your time tonight, and we really hope that you support us in these concerns that we have, because everything that's been raised is really for us to take care of our city, make it a better place. And we all enjoy living here. We know you do too, and thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any additional audience communication? With that, I'll close audience communication, and I'm sure some of my colleagues may want to speak to this as well, but I'll just jump in real quick. This was brought to my attention by one of your neighbors who is not here tonight, and it was the first that I had heard of it. It's the first that I think many of us heard of it this week. I followed up with some phone conversations with Mr. Davis. The way that it was explained to me is that Mr. Davis was investigating, to some degree, the likelihood and doing some preliminary work that he could do within his scope. There was never anything approved by the city council. There was nothing before the city council. And in regards to a comfort station or something of that nature being built on the golf course, which is a parks facility, the Parks and Recreation Commission would also have to hear that and would also have to approve it before it came to us. So we've heard your concerns. It is now on our radar. I think it would be very premature to have anything like a committee of the whole, because if this were pursued later on, which my understanding is that it's not going to be from Mr. Davis in my conversations with him, but if it were to be pursued later on, there would be several hearings throughout the process. There would be votes that would take place at the Parks and Rec Commission, and there would be votes that would take place here at the City Council. We have recently had situations in the city, so I can speak to you as this having happened recently, when there are improvements of a large nature such as this made to the parks, Mr. Davis does go out and give notice. The city's not required to, but he does go out and give notice to the surrounding neighbors, and they do come to the Parks and Rec Commission meetings. And recently that happened, and a project that they were pursuing did not pass. So there are steps built into the process here. I can understand how alarming this was to you to wake up to this and the situation, but I can tell you it's as far as I understand, it's not proceeding, and it is a project that does not have plans to proceed at this point. But if it did, there would be notice and there would be hearings and votes that would be taken where you'd have a chance to speak to it. Does that make sense? Okay. Anybody else want to speak to this? Mr. Donovic?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to touch on that and say thanks to Mr. President for kind of highlighting that process and explaining it. I wasn't aware of this entire situation until earlier today. So I do appreciate the residents for coming out and taking time. I understand sometimes it can be kind of convoluting to understand the dynamics of what happens in a city and how the process works. I do appreciate, though, the balance, right? The Parks and Rec Department, I appreciate Mr. Davis trying to enhance our parks, enhance the golf course. Simultaneously, I understand the concerns from the residents, making sure that there isn't a new structure, to your point, 39 feet away from your fence. So there has to be a balance. We want to improve the experience for our residents, mostly residents that enjoy our parks and our golf facilities, but we also want to make sure that we're being cognizant of the residents that abut that golf course that's been there for many long years. So there has to be a balance, and I think Mr. Davis, I'm very confident that Mr. Davis, to the president's remarks, is trying to strike that balance, and it'll be interesting to see if that plan does come before us eventually and what happens there. But I do appreciate the residents taking time out to share your thoughts, because it has been enlightening. Thank you, Mr. President.
I can't go back to you because audience communication is closed. Anybody else on the council wishing to make any announcements or comments this evening in regards to anything, not just this issue? Mr. Donovic, I'm sorry, I think he's got one.
Thank you, Mr. President. Two things. One, I would like to, on a really happy note, wish Councilwoman Kathleen McIntyre a happy birthday coming up on March 25th. I believe it might be her 21st birthday, although I'm not 100% sure. But on behalf of the entire city of Livonia, and the council, happy birthday to Councilwoman McIntyre. And then also on an informative note, some residents don't know, as council members, you get a lot of inquiries from residents about information happening in the community, questions about the chipping and branch service, questions about, for example, today with emergency system alarm that goes on in the entire community. With that being said, there's a really good resource if you utilize social media, our Facebook page, Livonia Community. So just want to put that out there. Sometimes residents don't know that that's available to the residents. It's free if you have service, if you have internet, and you are a subscriber of Facebook. Go on that page, Livonia Community, and there's a lot of great content down there, keeping residents updated what's going on in our community. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Barr?
Thank you, Mr. President. I know we often use this time to wish family members birthdays and the like. And those who have been in council with me for a long time know that my wife and I, since we were married almost 21 years ago, have tried to recognize monthly anniversaries. And so I need to wish my wife a very happy 250 month It's a big one. 250-month anniversary, which we'll be celebrating this Sunday, and don't often have big milestone month anniversaries, but this was one of them. I also have to say too, even though this probably will not score me political points within the city, that is a Kansas State alum. Go Cats tomorrow night.
Thank you, Mr. Barr. Ms. McIntyre?
Thank you, Councilmember Donovic, for the birthday wishes. And I had some nice residents drop some cupcakes off for me earlier tonight. So I appreciate that. And I would like to wish a very special happy birthday to our former mayor, Jack Engelbretson, whose birthday is tomorrow. And there's no way to overstate just what a great man Jack Engelbretson was. He was planning commissioner, he was city council president, and an outstanding mayor, and just an absolute stand-up guy. So happy birthday, Mayor Engelbretson. Also, I wanted to mention that last night I had the opportunity to be invited to and attend the State of the County address in Dearborn, which is given by the county executive, Warren Evans, and it was very enlightening and informative. There are way too many details to go into here, but I would suggest that anybody's interested in understanding more about the county's priorities, do some Googling on the county executive's speech last night. The other thing that jumps out at you when you go to these meetings is, and we talked about this, and we all benefit to some extent from this, but it is the ARPA money, the American Rescue Plan Act, that was intended to save us from COVID. That money has just flooded governments at every level, and governments are looking for a way to spend it. And, you know, we can debate the political merits of ARPA, but that's all of our tax money. We all contributed to that, but there really is a sense that this is free money, and it's not free money. And we certainly, now that it's here, want to see it put to the best use that benefits all communities when it's spent by the county. And there was one other thing I was going to say, and I forgot with my ramblings on the two other subjects.
Well.
So thank you, Councilmember Jolly.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Barr?
Thank you, Mr. President. There was one more quick thing I asked him for the floor to say. Would echo Councilman Donovic's comments about the golf, and Mr. Jolly's comments about the golf course issue. But I also just want to acknowledge Margaret. That's, along with the golf course saying that, we've just had great examples of just engaged residents tonight. And this is exceptional, just the thought that you put into this. And I see that you sent it to us electronically, and I don't know if you have already, but I'm going to make sure this gets to Parks and Rec just so that they can see it too. I don't know what, if anything, they'll do with it, but you've put a lot of thought into this and went way beyond what, you know, you were here a couple weeks ago expressing your opposition to what was proposed, but then you took the extra step and offered a solution. I just want to commend you for it.
Thank you.
Scott spurred my memory.
Sure.
And I do echo, thank you, Margaret, for a very thoughtful proposal. And there was a lot of time and effort and thought put into this, and I think this has a lot of merit. But to the residents who came tonight and spoke out and thanked us for listening to you, there's nothing more important than engaged citizens, and I'm glad the answer is that there was maybe misinformation is the right, not on your part, but not correct information was received, and you thought that a project was moving along without any approvals or any of the necessary permitting. But it's our job to listen to residents, and it's not just our job to do it when we're sitting up here. And when residents come to express concern and do it in such a respectful and productive way, that's the dream, I think, of elected officials. So thank you. You know, we'd love it if the auditorium were filled every meeting with people coming to thank us and tell us how great the city is. But we do really appreciate the time that people take to be engaged and come talk to us, because that's how we hear things, and I think we all try very hard to make ourselves accessible by telephone, by email, by text, and, you know, we can't always answer everyone individually. Sometimes there's just too much, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, if there's nothing else in terms of announcements from the council, we will go to the scheduled agenda for this evening. The agenda, let me note first, we have a report from the Department of Finance dated March 7th of 2023, forwarding departmental purchase reports for the month ending in February 28th of 2023. Now on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda this evening is items 1 through 4. Those items were studied at the study meeting on March 13th and found to require no additional study and will be voted on as a single item. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll move approval.
Support.
I have an approving motion from Barr, support from Morgan. Do we have any audience comments on the consent agenda, items 1 through 4? I see none. Ms. Nash, please take the vote on items 1 through 4.
Councilmember Barr,
Aye.
Councilmember Donavick.
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Aye.
President Jolly.
Aye. The consent agenda is passed. We will move on to unfinished business. Item number 5, that is a site plan petition. Petition 2023020801 submitted by Kozak Construction on behalf of HopCat Restaurant Company requesting to remodel the exterior of the former Clodagh Irish Pub at 17800 Haggerty Road between 6 Mile and 7 Mile Road in the southwest quarter of Section 7. Do I have a motion on this matter?
Mr. President,
Mr. Donovic,
I'll make an approving.
is there a second on that?
Yeah, I'll support that.
Okay, motion by Donovic, support by Morgan. Mr. Donovic, is there anything you want to say at this point?
No, I know there was some discussion at the last meeting. I'm not sure if the petitioner wants to come up and talk about that or not, but from my perspective, they're upgrading an old facility and investing the money into a vacant restaurant, and I think that'll be welcome to that vacant restaurant.
Is there any new information from Mr. Tormina? Any new information from the petitioner? Okay. Ms. McIntyre?
I didn't love all of the design elements of the new building, but I am probably not the target market, and I think that on the Haggerty corridor, there's already a lot of theming in restaurants, whether it's P.F. Chang's or, the Clodagh certainly, and I know there was a lot of architectural value at one time in what they had done with their theming, but I'm just excited to see a shuttered building that has been shuttered now for more than a year be given new life, be given new investment by a company that clearly has a track record of success and known for running good businesses. So I'm looking forward to this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Barr.
So I had expressed some misgivings about this last time. Again, very excited that HopCat's coming, very excited that a building that's been vacant for a while is getting revamped in this way. I was just disappointed. The rendering itself doesn't seem to measure up to what we see in that area over there. Now, granted, this rendering is a simpler rendering than we often see. I'm disappointed that we didn't see any material samples here or anything like that. But at the same time, it just seems to be lacking some character that we expect, particularly over there in that development. That being said, I have done some further due diligence since that meeting and inquired with some people more knowledgeable than I about these types of things. And while my opinions were not out of balance in those people's minds, I'm also at a point where, while I'm not in love with it, my desire to see this move forward outweighs that. So I won't be standing in the way of it tonight, but after expressing my opinions a week and a half ago, I just wanted to share that. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Is there any audience comments on item 5? I see none. Ms. Nash, please take the vote.
Councilmember Barr,
Aye.
Councilmember Donavick,
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Aye.
President Jolly.
Aye. Item 5 passes. On to 6. This is a proposed amendment to the Livonia Code of Ordinances as amended from the Department of Law to amend Section 010 to Title 10, Chapter 21, regarding the impounded vehicles in order to reflect the requested changes to the vehicle redemption conditions and costs and fees, i.e. towing fees, storage fees, etc. Do I have a motion on this matter? Or first reading, rather?
I'll offer first read.
Thank you, Mr. Barr. That's a first reading. Do we have any comments on item number Oh, go ahead. Ms. McIntyre?
Thank you, Council. Thank you, President Jolly. I would like to ask, and I talked to Paul, Mr. Bernier, our city attorney, briefly about this today, and also with the police department. I support this. I would like to ask Mr. Bernier if you would maybe circle back, as I've done with the police department, to get information on what comparable communities charge for this. And these certainly look very reasonable to me. And as always, I think what Livonia is doing is, it's already bad enough, right, if your car is towed or impounded. It's very, very important that we recover all of our costs related to those actions, because those cost the city money. But at the same time, it would appear that these fees do not look to earn additional money for the city on backs of people who have their cars towed or impounded, which again, if your car is towed or impounded in Livonia, it's almost always 100% for appropriate reason, but still, it's a difficult thing. But I just like to know what the other, what surrounding communities.
I will get the information for you, council member. It's my understanding, without looking into it, that we're probably on the lower end in the area, as we typically are when it comes to the residents. But I will get the exact information.
And that's how it looks to me too, but I just like if we could get a few other communities.
I will get those for
And
you.
primarily to share with our residents so they understand our philosophies about our fees. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on item number 6? Okay, we have a first reading on 6. We'll move on to new business, item number 7. That's a request to amend Council Resolution 31-22 from the Engineering Division to include a vendor for the previously approved purchase and upfitting of one 2022 Ford Escape and one 2022 Ford F-250. Do I have a motion?
I will move approval, Mr. Chair.
Support.
I have an approving motion from McIntyre, support from Barr. Is there any comment from the council?
I have one question.
Mr. Barr?
Through the chair to Mr. Zielinski, just clarifying my understanding, there's no difference in money here, it's just a technicality of reflecting 2 vendors instead of 1, right?
Correct. The total
Okay.
amount hasn't changed to $21,542, just that in order for to pay the vendors, we had to make sure that truck and trailer gets 2,000 of that amount, and VersaLift Midwest gets the 19,542.
Okay.
So just a clarification, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Is there any comment from the audience on item number 7? I see none. Ms. Nash, please take the vote.
Councilmember Barr,
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic,
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan,
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Aye.
President Jolly.
Aye. Item 7 is approved. With that, we will go back to audience communication for anyone who has not yet spoken during open communication. I see no audience communication. We'll go back to.
I just want to make sure you knew that
Ms. McIntyre?
I'm going to, I had offered and we had approved at the last meeting, putting the matter of the pilot program for a youth membership at the rec center into the Families Health Seniors Committee, which is Ms. Toy's committee. There's nothing that needs to be done from a procedural perspective, but when that meeting gets scheduled, I'm going to ask that Ms. Earle's proposal be included in the materials for the meeting, because I think there's, again, a lot of merit in here, and appreciate the thoughts and the proposal, so thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. If there's nothing else from council, I think we can safely show 5 to adjourn, and we will be back at 8 o'clock with the study meeting. Thank you all.